When I had heard about a movie called Poor Things, I just assumed it was about a bunch of film school graduates, like myself. Alright, that's my dad joke of the day. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on what time you are watching this. So I went and saw the movie Poor Things over the weekend, and there's something that's been on my mind since I left the theater that night, and it's this. Are Oscar-nominated movies nowadays just not as good as we remember them to be, or just not as memorable? And here's what I mean by that. I want to say since 2016, there's been something about Oscar-nominated films that just don't hold the same, at least with me. Could be different with everybody else. I feel like it has been different in general. It just seems like back in the day, Oscar-nominated movies maybe were more traditionally the bigger, like, studio films, and now it seems like it's more of their, like, little sister studios, Fox Searchlight, Focus Features type of movies, and that's kind of where this movie Poor Things falls in. Because leading up to this, I was 4 for 4 with the Best Picture nominees so far. Everything that I've seen that's been nominated was pretty solid. You had the big ones like Oppenheimer and Barbie, which is kind of what I was referring to. Like, I just feel like those were those bigger budget studio movies that would get nominated for Best Picture, which hasn't really seemed like it's been the case as much over the last maybe 7 or 8 years. And then I saw the movie Past Lives, the A24 film, which I said in my Oscar video. Really liked that. I was glad to see it got nominated for Best Picture. And then the last one I saw was The Holdovers, which was also really solid. So we get to the movie Poor Things, and I'm still feeling pretty mixed about the whole movie. And I feel like the audience that I was there with was as well. I saw this with about 7 people in the theater, including myself, and I literally counted because there was 3 couples. 2 of them were older people, probably 60s or older, and then there was like a younger couple, probably in their 20s, and then there was me sitting in the back. Probably not even an hour into the movie, one of the couples gets up and leaves. And they were a little vocal before the movie. Every trailer that would play, they would criticize it, and I think the most common thing I'd hear them say, and I am paraphrasing, would be, "Oh, that looks stupid," or "That looks like crap." And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, tell us how you really feel. And I was hoping, please don't be talking throughout the movie, and they weren't. But about an hour in or so, they get up, and it was funny because at this point, I don't even think the movie had really gotten into like the more uncomfortable stuff to watch with Emma Stone. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But they get up at about an hour in, and they leave, and so I was like, okay, all right, we got a walkout, interesting. And then the movie ends. And then the other older couple gets up, and maybe they were the ones that were talking before the movie because they were saying kind of the same things of just like, oh, that was crap. I mean, clearly this movie is not for everybody, but I was thinking like, okay, older audience, they want to see those Oscar-nominated movies, and this one maybe just was not what they were expecting. I kind of had an idea of what to expect going into this just from seeing the trailer and also just knowing the R rating with the strong sexuality that was given to it. So I kind of had an idea going in. I was like, I kind of expect what to see, and it, yeah. But that's where I'm maybe feeling a little bit mixed about this, because I did really enjoy certain parts of this movie. I like weirdness, I like quirkiness, and that's what this movie does do well. And maybe that's where this movie is making me feel mixed at the moment, because I'm the type of person that really connects with a movie when I'm connecting with a character. It doesn't always have to be the main character, but if there's somebody that I can really attach to, then it really makes the movie feel more special to me. And I think that's where this movie just falls flat. I couldn't really connect with Emma Stone. I couldn't really connect with other characters. It just seemed a little too fantastical. I mean, the sets are amazing. I'll get to that because this movie's going to win some Oscars for sure. The story itself it's very universal. It's the idea of leaving home, you experience the world, and you come back home with all this wisdom. That's a very common thing with a lot of people. And that's basically what happens with Emma Stone's character. And actually is really interesting to see her development, because the whole story is about her with this childlike brain as if she's like a toddler. But then she comes back at the end of the movie and she is essentially an adult. She can barely talk in the beginning of the movie, and she comes back at the end and she can actually put together full sentences. She's pretty smart, and I think that's the idea. It's like you leave home, you go experience the world, and you come back, and your hometown seems a lot smaller than it was when you left. But Emma Stone does do a great job in this movie. I can't imagine this being an easy movie to film. And again, if you know, you know. But my favorite character in this movie is Mark Ruffalo. It's interesting because when he first meets Emma Stone, he is the adult, and it seems like he's taking advantage of her, which he pretty much is. But it almost seems like at times Mark Ruffalo can be the child, and he's having like little hissy fits and pouting matches, and it's really funny, and he does a really good job. And then of course there's the great Willem Dafoe. He can take a average movie and make it much better to at least the status of good, but not necessarily make it great, as in this case. Margaret Qualley shows up in this movie. She had a very small role, but it seemed like she was playing into it and doing the most with what she can. So what I mentioned earlier is this movie is probably going to win some Oscars, and I truly think it will. It got nominated for 11, which I think was maybe the second most after Oppenheimer. And this movie should win Oscars for some of the technical categories. The first one being production design, because man, the production design in this movie is insane. I'm watching it at times, I'm just like, where did they film this? Is this on a soundstage? Is this visual effects? I'm just like, wow. Because the movie really picks up when Emma Stone leaves her home and she starts to go see the world. And the first place she goes to is Portugal, and the sets there are just so cool looking. Like, you can see that they're supposed to be in like the city, but again, it looks like they're on like a soundstage. And then they go on the ship. The ship itself looks so cool. If this movie does not win for production design, I would be shocked. The most impressive thing about this movie is definitely the production design and the set decoration. The next one is the cinematography. They'd like to do a lot of wide shots, very weird, like almost wide angle lens, but you can see it's kind of distorted. They like to do a lot of shots where it's almost like a vignette where it looks like you're looking through a peephole. The first like 20 to 30 minutes of this movie is in black and white, and there is a purpose to that, because once Emma Stone leaves her home and starts experiencing the world, she starts to see everything in color. It's almost that Wizard of Oz effect. I wonder if that was the inspiration for the idea of going from black and white to color. But that is my take on Poor Things. I'm halfway through the Best Picture nominees. The first half has been pretty strong. Here's hoping that the second half is just as good. Excuse me, I must go punch that baby.